Marc McElroy is a particular bird, singular, a quiet genius. Marc McElroy dislikes anything to do with spreadsheets or things that are supposed to make things easier. They never do. Though he does like paper, Marc McElroy also likes the process and that it takes time to do things. Living, breathing time. We all live in a world where we're taught that we need to be done, right? Finishing is winning. Well, Marc believes that the process is the accomplishment. He owns a guitar shop and a recording studio, so I think he understands how things work. Did you know that Marc was once tasked with taking a $10,000 toilet and making it so that the lid automatically closed, then the toilet flushed, instead of the reverse order it came in? It's true. Marc McElroy plays the flute and the bass, synthesizers and the saxophone, anything with strings or a thing that might resemble a keyboard. Marc McElroy has a son named John, and 15 years from now, that will be a very unusual name for a young person.
All right, here we are. Burst in Bloom presents Marc McElroy.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Marc.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming and talking. Marc plays in a band called Elroy, played in a band called Jupiter 2, plays in Tiger Saw. Does a bunch of music with Seth Warren currently. Warner, there it is.
Played in a band called Cape Snow.
Oh yeah, that's a band. Yeah.
That's a band on Burst in Bloom.
Yes.
Ties right here.
I got to try and remember bands that I've been in.
Yeah, you were there. You were there. Yeah.
Yeah, and much sought after producer as well. Has recorded a lot of the albums that you hear around town. We had Jim Ryu on earlier, and you worked intimately with him.
Yes, yeah, that was always great fun, and I like to be the one that people come to when they want to get weird. That's a good specialty to have.
Yeah, you can just push them over the edge a little bit.
Yeah, if they're on the edge, they can get, just give them the nudge they need to get weird.
Yeah, how is it different approaching producing, say, a record for another artist as opposed to working on your own material?
Oh, well, I think when you're working on your own productions, you try to be two people. Like, I'm the producer and I'm the artist. You have that fight inside your head.
I always have that fight in my head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so sometimes it's good to fight with an external force instead of with yourself. So that's what the producer's there for. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that respect, a lot of people these days as well. I'm having a lot of these days thoughts lately.
Yeah, you get to an age and
these kids these days. Yeah. A lot of the artists are the co-producer anyways.
Sure.
Because the producer is also the person who puts up the money. The producer is the person who runs. There's a risk sharing going on.
Right.
That a lot of recording engineers who aren't producers but have the same kind of facility. Because I have a recording studio and I'm a producer. So I'm the recording engineer and the producer. There used to be two people who sat in the room, one in back of the other. And these days, it's just one person.
Yeah, and you're also the janitor, it turns out.
Yeah, exactly, too. And, and so, many hats. So, so it is that thing, so the artist you're working with is producing themselves as well. And so sometimes you're just there to help guide them, to Yoda them a little bit here and there. But they really want their vision, and that's fine with me, too.
Do you ever butt heads on things where you really feel strongly one way and an artist thinks differently?
Yes, even recently.
Yeah?
Yeah, recently, yeah. And I don't want to bring it up too hard because it's so recent.
This is the time to name names.
I don't necessarily name names, but someone decided to make a change. Like, we were like, this is something that's been going on for years. And at the last minute, they want a major change to the sound, like on the last day of mixing. And it's like, I thought we were done with this. It's like, no, I want this whole thing to be,
Wow.
because someone told me I should do this. And it was like, oh, well. Yes. And then you had to, because they're also the person writing the check is the executive producer. It's like, well, it's your record, you can do it. But it did leave me with a feeling afterwards. It's like, man, I feel like I got taken or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Because a lot of what you do in producing small-time people like ourselves is
we're big time, Marc.
We're big time, big fish in the small pond.
Yeah.
Is you get you get your name on it. You get you get to share someone's work with them.
Yeah.
And if they want to make a major change that you don't support, then that's just like, oh, well, it's your record, I guess. And then it kind of hurts a little bit right around here.
Yeah. Well, I know you're working on a new Elroy album as we speak. How has that process been? This is your fifth Elroy album?
This would be the sixth album, fifth released album, if it does get released. Yeah. There's and so I'm about my own records. I'm the shoemaker's son's the last to get shoes.
Yes.
And so I'm busy, making other people's records. But it got to a point, it's been 4 years, and I really just got to get more stuff out there. So I'm going to make a push this spring and make something happen. Because I just,
And I know that you work with a band that you've worked with for a long time. How many years have you guys?
20-something, yeah. Geez, 22.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Or more, yeah.
But then in the studio, sometimes you bring in other people. You have different drummers. Sometimes you play things yourself.
Yeah. So there was a joke in the old days of the band, which is if you didn't show up to the session, I would play your instrument for you. And so on the early records,
and it's going to sound better.
Yeah. On the other records, there's songs there's no, I'm on the drums or I'm on bass. It's literally because someone just couldn't make it, and we're like, no, we're recording. You can make it or not, but we got to get this done. So there used to be this back in the old days, it used to be like, we got to get this thing out because we got these gigs and we got to have the CDs to sell at the gig. And I was like, whatever, put something out and into the ether. But yeah, and so myself, I play a few different instruments, and sometimes
a lot of instruments. Don't be humble.
And sometimes, sometimes Brian, who's the bass player in Elroy, will kind of just turn it over to me. You do it. You know what you want. You know what you. But there's a lot of no ego involved in that.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Adam, the drummer. Also, he lives in Ossipee. Moved up there years ago, so it's not like at hand. So sometimes, if something's just like I got a couple hours to do something, then I'll just kind of do it.
Right. Yeah.
But it is, despite the fact that the name of the band is part of my last name, it's not a megalomaniacal approach to the work.
Yes.
It's supposed to be a group effort. And
it is, and you're a great live band. You were alluding to it earlier, but how has the music scene changed in the 22 years that Elroy's been performing?
A lot.
Yeah.
And though it's so everything seems to not change until you wake up one day and everything is different. And there really is a different thing of where bands are playing, who's going to see bands. Some of the things are actually positive. Some things I'm like, okay, it used to be I'd go out and all my friends would come, and then the band wasn't like a thing that was like a draw for non-fans or non-friends.
Right.
And the people who happen to show up are like, hey, that band's all right, let's stick around, that was cool too. But now it is literally a popularity contest. And everyone's on that same, we have our 30 people or we have our 100 people, but bands and all that kind of strata are like, this is, it's a much tighter knit relationship with even the venues and the people who come to you and the people you work with in various ways. And so I don't know if that was too weird an answer, but yes, there's changes, and some is for the worse and some for the better. And the worst part is that there's just less places to play and less people to play to.
Right. And so I know in the past you've always made physical releases. Is that still the plan for this one?
I kind of have to.
Yeah.
At least maybe. The last one we did on LP record.
Yeah.
And
it was a bit of a bear, wasn't it?
Getting it right.
Yes.
Just because I ended up going with, because it was recorded analog. Mm-hmm. And I think that the cutting engineer didn't realize, he's always working with digital recordings, and he just had such a difficulty cutting it, even though he had a long list of credits, and he was, obviously a professional, but he just wasn't, so I had to drop that after just several attempts. We had to go to a different cutter, and then went to a different manufacturer, and so that's, but I just had to see that thing with my name on it, I just love seeing my name on a record, because I grew up with records.
Yeah, and we're of that age where music was a physical thing, and you interacted with it, and you turned it over, and you read the liner notes. Yeah, well, reading the liner notes and just studying the liner notes. Right.
And then the other part of that is, if you bought a CD, you went to a record store, you looked through the CDs, you bought one.
Your hands got dirty.
Yeah, the ink of it. You bought one, and you caught a cold because you were touching everything everyone else was touching. And you took it home and listened to it, and if you didn't like it, what did you do?
Just traded it in.
No, you listened to it again, all right? You listen to the whole thing, and then you listen to the whole thing again.
Yeah.
And then maybe a third time, and then by the third time, either you trade it back in for $5, or you're like, I get this.
Yeah.
Now you have to be impressive from the first moments of a song, or you're doomed.
Right.
So that's the difference between the age of the physical and the fact that the decision whether or not you suck is an a virtually instantaneous decision. And so that I kind of, I harken back to the days of, and I like being like forced. Like when I bought, the Peter Gabriel's third album, because I liked his fourth and fifth album.
Right.
That thing is different. That's the one with no symbols on it. And it took me a while to learn to like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And sometimes figuring out a way into an album is really how you came to love it, and it opened your mind up in ways you didn't know.
Yeah. And so that experience is missing from today's listening. So to get back to the question a little bit, yes, I'll mix some physical thing. May or may not be a record, but probably a CD. And then the art is so important too.
Yeah.
We just love the art. So you got to make art. And when you make art for a record especially, but if you make art for a physical existence, it tends to have a different life than when you make something just to be a icon.
Of course. Yeah. And I know that you from a very young age were enamored with music and really listened to the radio very intently.
Yeah.
What was that experience like as a kid?
As a child, you know how like some kids would sit in front of the TV? I would sit in front of the radio. And I'd watch it glow while I listened to the music. And and the music of the 70s still lives in my brain. Bob Scaggs, Silk Degrees. Yeah, right. That's it worked its way into my DNA, melted its way into my DNA or something. So, as a music listener, my father also was involved in radio, so I had like a little bit of pride over that. I was just like, he wasn't an on-air personality, but when I was alive, he was earlier in the. It's more like the management thing, but that's this radio station that my father works for. Or that's the DJ that my father knows because he knew a bunch of DJs in the other stations and stuff. And so, and radio was so important then, and now it's so terrible.
Yeah, well, there's so much of it. Yeah. But
I used to drum my fingers on the table in front of me, thinking it's a piano. Hoping it's a piano.
Even before you played.
Before I played piano or knew anything about it, I knew this is how you did it. And so I'd listen to music and drum my fingers in front of me, or the organist in the church I went to was, so I'd be imitating the organist because he was a cool dude. Yeah,
I've seen you do that very thing.
Yeah.
Mellotron Nord.
Yeah, exactly. It's just you come back to it. Yeah.
That's awesome. It just seems like such a rich area for music here, and you've been around it for so long now. How has the scene itself changed?
Well, the cool thing is, it kind of cycles, which is cool. Which you'll have this like little club, and then this other club takes over, and then this other, kind of thing, and it's cool to like realize, this is you're in the next season has begun, and this is episode 5 of the next season.
Right.
And it's also good to be kind of part of the bridge those kind of things too, so that's cool. And there's just a totally different landscape. I mean, it looks like. When you look around in this old New England house, it looks like nothing's changed in 100 years, but everything's changed profoundly in music, I think. And even the way musicians think about music. Because you mentioned earlier, I play a bunch of instruments. And when I learned to play a bunch of instruments in the 80s, that was unusual. And I was a songwriter, And like now, like everyone's a songwriter, and everyone plays a bunch of instruments because you play one instrument for 6 months and you start another one because the pace of life and the pace of everything is. So it's less unusual for that. And so that's a change in the world. Like, I play bass in this band, I play drums in this band. It used to be like, you what? And now that's pretty commonplace. Everyone just kind of does their thing for whatever the thing is. Or it's very experimental these days, which is cool.
And so how did you get interested in recording? How did that tickle your brain?
Just from the earliest age. I always had the cassette recorder with a speaker built in, and I used to bring it to school with me. And I used to run around the playground with it, just playing music, and I used to sleep with it next to my ear, listening to music, and I get I was just fascinated by what the tapes could do. And
sure.
It was just there's just no question that, and I just followed that. And my joke, it's not really a joke, but I always consult with the 15-year-old you.
Right.
because that's a purer form of you. And so, and since then, you've been, you've had the life beaten out of you. You've been told this is what you should do and this is what you should. But that mid teenager is where those two things, the childhood dreams and the adult reality, kind of cross in your mid teens. And so that's recording. And then even to make it even deeper, my father was the manager of a recording studio before I was born at a place called Fleetwood Records, Fleetwood Recording Studios, and they had a record label too in Revere, Massachusetts. And a lot of those New England garage rock bands all went through there, and the Shags recorded and stuff. And I grew up with the Shags acetate. So the original cut of the Shags record, we had that in my house growing up. My father used to just put it on for a laugh once in a while. And,
that's awesome.
And I
Where's
really,
it now?
really wish I knew where that was, because that was worth a bunch of money. But yeah, that's so it's in my heart and in my genes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's unavoidable.
Yeah, and did your dad ever get to see your recording studios or hear?
No, just my 4-track in the basement in the 80s. He passed away in 92. So yeah, just the very earliest. He did. Okay, so here's a musical memory of that. He was, I was practicing the piano, and I was doing like a jazz standard in an older song. And he was just like, he's like, that's not how it goes. And he walks up to the piano, puts on his reading glasses, sits down, and starts, just limping through the. I'd never seen him play music.
Wow.
Because in my entire life he'd never played music. He was a jazz trumpeter when he was a young person, and he was a musician, and then he just kind of just stopped doing it, and I didn't even realize that he just was like. I just remember blowing my mind that he was like. So he was listening.
Yeah.
But, didn't stick around long enough to see most of it.
Right. Awesome. Well, we're gonna head over to the Blue Couch and have you play a song for us. So let's do that. All right, here we are on the Blue Couch with Marc McElroy from the band Elroy, and you're going to play for us a song called You've Got to Know.
All right.
And I know there's a bit of a story behind this one.
There's a story behind everything, for me at least, yeah. But this one I chose to do just because I got into this kind of, just this love of simple songwriting, this kind of Smokey Robinson thing, and just like, wow, how simple can you be and still express a depth? And so this was kind of when I was in that phase, and this song was a good example of that for me. So the lyrics are simple. It's actually written for my wife.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool too. So often we write, when we write songs, it's when we're sad, or we get in the songwriting mood when something's wrong, and so we write all these kind of. So it's nice to write like just a sincere "I love you" song.
What'd you think of it when you played it?
I don't know if she's heard it. No. Well, here's a little irony: is my wife, she likes my music, when I play it.
Right.
She probably heard it. She likes pop music. Not really Americana, R&B, indie rock.
Yeah. Probably didn't have a lot of that growing up in Russia, right?
Yeah, there's that too.
All right, are you ready to play You've Got to Know for us?
Yeah, sure, thanks. Take your time this time. Don't worry if it's yours or mine. Everything is fine. You gotta know that I'm here for you. Taken out of context, don't know which move is next. Without pretext, You gotta know it's what I'm here to do. To love you, nothing in my way to make me change my mind, nothing left to say. Flying through the sky at the speed that life goes by, the blink of an eye. You gotta know the world is here for you.
So good. Love that one, Mark. And that's a great one live. It really.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
really hits when you play it live.
It's also down tempo, half-timey thing that kind of gets people going. What's good? Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm proud of that one. So thanks.
Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for talking.
Yeah. Oh yeah, thank you so
Giving
much.
us some insights into your wild processes.
Hopefully I can be insightful.
All right, Burst and Bloom presents out. Thanks for watching.